to the Living Yoga Podcast. My name is Darren Main. In this podcast, I talk to people who are smarter than me about yoga, and they're not hard to find. In this podcast, in this episode, I have a dear friend. Her name is Janet Stone. You have no doubt heard of her because she is a legend in the yoga world. And we are going to be talking about perimenopause, which is a word that I didn't even know a couple of years ago. And now it seems to be what a lot of people are talking about. And I think it's really good news. I think it's something that needs to be talked about. And today we're going to get a little bit of a yogic perspective on how women who are at that stage of life can ride that wave a little more gracefully. So Janet is going to give us some insights into that. Before we get into that, please know that I will put a link to her website and other resources in the show notes. I will also put links to my work. You can comment on Facebook, on Instagram, on Spotify, or YouTube, and we will keep an eye on those comments and do our best to respond. And of course, like, subscribe, and share if you feel so inclined. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to bring in Janet, and we're going to talk about perimenopause and probably a bunch of other stuff. Janet, how are you?
I'm so well. I'm so happy to be here.
It is so nice to chat with you. And, you're one of those people that has been in my life. Like, I can't remember a time that you weren't in my life. I can't remember when, we know we met through Yoga Tree, like right at the start. So that had to be 30 years ago. Is that possible? 25, 30 years?
So yeah, it's up there. Those numbers are high. Hence, we're talking about perimenopause at this point.
What's the male equivalent of perimenopause? I think we need to coin that perimenopause, or I don't know.
Well, there's already men in menopause, so I don't actually know. I mean, I think it's called midlife crisis.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to start dating the babysitter and buy a sports car, I suppose.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you and your journey. You're, like I said, you're just one of those people that's been in my life forever, who I adore. I love your teaching on all things. Like, every time I see one of your videos online or take one of your classes, which I admittedly haven't done in years, I walk away with some inspiration. And I'm wondering, you've seen the arc of your own body as you practice yoga for many years and going through perimenopause. I'm wondering why you felt this topic was important, and what your own sort of lived experience is around that.
Yeah, I'm honestly here, Darren, because I love you. One, two, because it's a public service announcement. I mean, it's just, first of all, the name of your podcast, Living Yoga. Yoga is for the living, anyone who's in a body, any type of body, any moment in life. Now, did I think of that when I was in my 20s? No, I was trying to attain enlightenment and transcend. And then I was trying to get both my legs back behind my head. And I was successful in those endeavors in various ways. And, to be in this body and to get the whole, like you said, the arc of and change, and to stay, and as that thread staying through my life is yoga. And so through the practices and teachings of yoga, finding patience. Now, suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, things started to change. And I didn't have any name for it. And all the things that were working before were no longer working. I couldn't just pop on my mat. The motivation to pop on my mat, the mood, the migraines that I would have, the lack of motivation, just everything that I had relied upon, and especially in relationship, of course, to my yoga practice, because it is a thread in my life, had changed. And I kept thinking it's my will. Maybe if I just, had more discipline, maybe if I could just push myself a little bit harder. And none of that was really working, Darren. And so I just found myself kind of at a loss. But keep showing up and keep trying to figure it out. And thank goodness, it was actually probably about 8 years after perimenopause had actually began in my body, and there was hair loss and mood changes and body changes and stuff around the waist and things that had never been there before suddenly arriving. And somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, come see me in my office." And I had done, some beautiful naturopathic work, and I'd had hormones tested. And it's really hard to find out where you are in that testing because it's always changing, right? It's the era, the zone of chaos where all the reliability of the progesterone and estrogen and testosterone coming in at their rates at what they do during normal cycle times had changed. So that's a mouthful. So if you're a listener and you're in a male body, please stay. I promise you, because I really want to create this environment where the conversation opens up, where it's not taboo. And just for those older ladies, it's really for anyone. I mean, by the time we're 30, we've already lost 90% of our egg production. So the estrogen is declining rapidly by that age.
Well,
And by the time, and depending on where you are in your body, and every single body is different, but 10 years before menopause, which is only one day, you're already losing progesterone at a rapid rate, which means hair loss, which means mood and anxiety changes, depression, and all of these things that we grapple with silently. And so I'm like, let's get everybody in the room, whatever
yeah.
body you're in. You could be presenting whatever way, but my goodness, come on, let's have the convo. Let's talk.
Well, as one who is in a male body, I think that men are going through their own hormonal changes, maybe just a little less dramatic, but no less like we're going through midlife crisis. It's a thing that we're changing. Our bodies change, but I also think like when we think of women in pregnancy and if they have a male partner. Um, a good male partner is present for everything their partner is going through, those hormonal shifts and body changes, and we get like a sticker to put on the refrigerator as men for being there supporting a female partner as they go through that. But
Yeah.
perimenopause, it's like, why are you so moody all the time? You know what I mean? Like, and not understanding it. And I think men should understand it so that we can be supportive, maybe give a little space, maybe give a little hug, maybe just ask what you need today. I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe some of the advice you offer today can be for people in male bodies. But I think you bring up a really important point about men being more present and sensitive and aware.
Yeah, let's be all in the conversation, for the reduction of testosterone in the male body, but also in the female body. We are
Yeah.
losing progesterone rapidly at around, 10 years before menopause. And so we're also losing testosterone, which is motivation and sex drive and libido, and things are happening in urogenital areas. And, it's just why, my mother's menopause, I don't want that. I don't want to be
Yeah.
silently suffering, and I don't want anyone to silently suffer. So this is truly like just a passion that one woman, only one person had to come to me and say, "Hey, come see me." She was an OBGYN, and thank goodness for her. And the trajectory of the last just couple years has changed dramatically, right?
Yeah.
Suffering with hot flashes, and the whole Karen era where everyone was being called a Karen, all these women, these older women. I have compassion now. I swear they're all in perimenopause or menopause. The It's like this barrier that we have, this sort of buoyancy and goodness that is progesterone goes away, and it's like you're rubbing on anxiety and panic. It's when women go toward alcohol, other prescription drugs, the kind of the joke of the mom with all the prescription bottles and alcohol, washing it down. I
Mm.
mean, that's not funny because it's actually
It's
sadly
not.
no, they're trying to pad their all that's happening.
You know, First, I want to applaud you for being brave enough to talk about this, because I think as yoga teachers, we're conditioned to always be like perfect. Like I get up and meditate for 5 hours a day and eat nothing but healthy food and never have a bad day. And the truth is, we're going through it just like everyone else. Like our bodies are changing and the world around us is happening. And I think when yoga teachers like you are like, yeah, perimenopause is a thing and it's hard. And I didn't know what was happening until somebody talked to me, and I thought I was the one going crazy. And I think you're saying that, just that is a gift to a lot of people. Um, but I also think at best, Western medicine pathologizes a lot of women's health issues. It says there's something wrong with you. Um, at worst, they say you're crazy. There's nothing happening. You're not going to hit menopause for another 10 years. And so you're left thinking, like, what's wrong with me? And it's no wonder people are turning to a bottle of pills, to try and find normalcy. They think there's something wrong with them, and there's not. It's just your body doing its thing. Um, anyway, you can take that where you will, but I just want to thank you for being like the one who's willing, not the only one, but one of the few that is willing to stand up and be like, yeah, this is a thing, and you're not crazy. You're just like me.
100%. Let's normalize it. Let's bring it into the yoga spaces, because actually yoga is all of its points of practice, which are mental, physiological, spiritual, all of them touch into this journey through a body, period. Again, male body, female body, trans, in any of the spaces, it takes us all the way through. And it has some beautiful anecdotes to some of these pieces. Now, I cannot stop the reduction of estrogen and progesterone. That's not in the possibility of, if we live long enough, all those things will to deplete to basically zero. So in that depletion, in every single organ system in our body, we have estrogen receptors. So just imagine, as all that estrogen depletes, brain and that brain fog and can't remember shit. That is literally the hashtag can't remember shit, and just all these pieces that were never overwhelming, that seem overwhelming. But not only that, we have insulin resistance. And so sugar becomes almost like an evil doer in our body and our life. So does alcohol. You cannot assimilate and digest it. And yet people are reaching for it because of the anxiety and the discomfort and the lack of. So, I mean, I could go way deep into the science pieces of it and what is happening in the heart. So also cholesterol goes way up, the LDLs go way up, and so all these pieces. And then they're telling you this list of all the things that you need to do. It's like, sleep well. Well, I can't sleep because your cortisol is way up, because you're inflamed, because so it's this sort of constant race and chain of, I'll eat all fiber, 1,000 million grams of protein a day, no sugar, all this, and yet you're just trying to still live your life and be a human being.
And
And
frequently be like a mom or a partner
yes,
to somebody,
yes,
and like
working and
working.
partnering and just living in the modern world, where we're kind of given ourselves this complex of be everything, do everything. And so I really just want to give permission. You cannot do all of that. And can we find these little touch points to have these conversations and to normalize it? One, two, to find stability and strength back in our own body, to come back to our body being. And one of the primary way to do that is through breath. And breath also regulates the system, right? So you have this axis that gets agitated through the pituitary and all of the hormones that are rushing out that put you in fight or flight during this time. And using your breath practices, using strength practices, and yoga in its asana form has so much potency around building muscle as the muscle atrophies, as the bone health, the osteoporotic journey of women is stunning. And so, really building that from as early as possible: strength, muscle strength, bone strength, emotional, mental strength, to weather the wild ride that can be this time.
Yeah. Um, you know, I think you can speak to this beautifully, I suspect. I interviewed the author of a book called Putting the Magic in Middle School. And it's all about how we remember middle school as this time of just similar to perimenopause, only truncated to a couple of years when we're going through puberty and we're awkward. And it's just like, many of us remember it as a living hell. Um, but he is doing this work to sort of reframe it as this exciting time where your body is changing and you're sort of like the caterpillar going into the cocoon to come out a butterfly, and it's scary and it's overwhelming and there's all this change, and yet there's something really magical about that time. I'm wondering if you have thoughts about, you talk about the challenges of perimenopause, but also like how exciting that you're becoming this wise elder, that transition from like the childbearing years to the beautiful thing that comes after that our society doesn't value at all, or values very little.
100%. I mean, look at, to me, like the Jane Fondas of the world. It's not like you just are done and put you in the cupboard. And I feel like that's another reason I want to sort of just share is you're not done. But what can be is the sloughing off, right? And so in the yogic tradition, right, you actually aren't attached to all the external validations and pieces, but really through this journey, I feel like those jackets and identities can slough off. There can be a lot of grace that happens in it. And then on the other side of it, and as some of those symptoms find their way into a more regulated space, it's so empowering. And again, like trying to appease and please society, we put that in the non-valuable section, but please turn toward the elder, and especially the women who are really willing to do the work, to sit with themselves and the uncomfortable emotions. I was at the time where I didn't understand I was in perimenopause when my kids were in puberty. Wow, that was a household, right? I mean, and to see them kind of come on the other side of that, in their late teens and early 20s, and me, finding my way through like that, the richness that comes through going, as you said, that sort of mulching and that a little bit of composting out some of the things that are no longer serving and moving into a new era. It's really exciting, and so much power can come from that. But there's so much to do in the world still.
I have another thought that I'd love for you to reflect on. And I feel like humans today are different than humans from even 100 years ago. I mean, we're living much longer. So, like, a woman 100 years ago or 200 years ago, y- perimenopause was sort of like the end of life. Like, you probably weren't going to see 70, and you probably had many, many, many kids, not all women, but like the norm was to have like a lot of kids, and you were almost constantly pregnant or breastfeeding, which is like a hormone, right? That's a different hormonal picture than the average woman today who has one or two kids, maybe none. Maybe they've been on birth control pills. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen hormonally that are different for the modern women, and our bodies didn't really evolve to understand that. It's like this was thrown at us, this modern medicine, and what it does for us in good ways and bad. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how yoga can help um, modern women, because it's just of a different world that we're living in.
We're in a very different world. And also, if we look back, I mean, really 100 years ago, and historically, even yoga wasn't for women.
Hmm.
Postural yoga, any yoga. Like there was no access, it wasn't for women. So the fact that we have access to it now, plus the medical changes that have come into place, plus the awareness, and at the same time, we are more sedentary than we've ever been. We are more locked into devices and sort of gone energetically, which we call in yoga pranic, this life force energy, just kind of going into these spaces when we forget that we're vital beings. We get to live longer. And yes, in a sense, as estrogen depletes, it's kind of trying to kill us. Like it's going after every organ system. And at the same time, we have ways to approach that and ways to lean into the support that we have. And again, if I'm going to be able to live longer, I want to do something with my life. I really want to make a difference in this world. Again, I'm done raising children, and we're done maybe, trying to vie for the top boss position and be the be all do all, which kind of has been a new era as well. And so how do we actually tune in emotionally? How do we heal our old pieces and old wounds? And how do we sit with ourselves in that discomfort and comfort? And that's the potency of meditation. I started at 17, and this has been the seed that has carried me through every iteration of life. And the modern woman is just, and the modern person, whatever body you're in, is asked to do too much. And yet we're sedentary. And so we disassociate from our own emotional sense, our own landscape of need to connect and be in community. And that's my whole desire, is to keep weaving the fabric of community together, because in that, information is shared. And that way we're still connected to our evolutionary beings, the ones that have come before us, our ancestors that really just needed this deep connection to share information and share wisdom. And then, of course, the meditation piece, the pranayama, which is now often called breath work. Beautiful. Call it whatever you want. Do it. It's so powerful. And then again, that muscle and bone power and strength, that, the atrophy that comes, and we get to work almost double time. And I'm actually excited. I love moving my body and using my body. And I could just kind of sit down and give up. And I think that's more of, 40, 50 years ago. But while we're here, let's use it. In the modern life, it gives almost too many comforts. So finding those ways in which we can just create that tension and that friction, and whether that's like getting ourselves to a yoga class, getting ourselves to hike with friends.
Yeah. I read something recently and they used the Golden Girls. Remember that show from the
Oh
80s?
my God.
Such a
They're
great
younger
show.
than I am now.
Yes, but they look like old women. Like they weren't that old, but I mean, like their hairstyles, the way they lived, the way they
Yeah.
contemplated their existence, they were very funny,
Yeah.
but they were not like old women. They were like late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And I think of that compared to women today. And it's such a different world. And that part of that is medical, but part of it's just like the awareness you're talking about of like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're done raising children and your body's shifted and you can take all that energy, that output, and redirect it into other things. Or you can sit and watch your stories on TV like your grandmother.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we support each other. So let's do that. Let's support each other
Yeah.
in really stepping into what this time can be. And like you said, I mean, we're all going through an evolution if we're awake for it. And, that to me is what the hopeful part of it, and the fun part of it is like
Yeah.
anytime we kind of have to like squeeze ourselves through. And it's the same with getting the kids out of your body and into the world, or getting your kids out of your house and into the world. And
Mhm.
these big transitions, or if you don't have kids, whatever that is that tension point in life that creates this wider perspective, this wider
Yeah.
view. And again, I have endless amounts of information, facts, all of that stuff. But in the end, what we need is each other. What we need is to be reminded that these are natural progressions. So long as we get to live and be in a body, right? We're going through these
Yeah.
natural progressions.
Um, I want to share a story with you and have you reflect on it as it relates to your teaching and how your teaching may have changed as you've changed, as maybe your students have changed around you. This happened many years ago, long before I'd ever heard the word perimenopause, but uh, uh, and I had the heat up in my class a little bit, not crazy hot, but on the warmer side. And this woman, she looked like she was not feeling well, and she sort of rushed out into the lobby of the Stanyan yoga tree. And I sort of poked my head out into the lobby to make sure she was okay. And she was walking out the door. I'm like, I'm sorry, are you okay? And she said, I'm going through menopause. And and then like I was like, I don't know what to say. But she came to me a couple days later and she's like, I want to apologize. I'm just going through these awful hot flashes and you had the heat out of the room and I just needed to get out of there. I was like, it's totally fine, But what I realized, what she taught me, A, is to be more sensitive as a man, but also B, that the yoga we did, maybe being in a really hot room was fine when you were 25. When you're 45, maybe not so much. Or maybe some days yes, some days no. I'm wondering, and not just about heat, but about any aspect of your yoga. How has that changed for you, your practice, and how you offer yoga to the world, or has it not changed?
Oh, it has changed. I hope it's changed because I feel like that's part of paying attention, right? To be awake to the shifts and changes. And I can really just honestly say that I try to make that space for everybody and really be so empathetic and compassionate whenever someone's having an experience. When I was younger, just like you, I couldn't relate to that, even though I'm in a female body, because I had women do the same thing, like cracking the window. And, I try not to turn heat on. I try to have it a natural temperature, and really build the heat within. But sometimes it's warmer. But even if it's 60 degrees and wind is blowing, when you have a hot flash, you literally want to crawl out of your own body, right? So just whatever someone is going through, just carrying that type of compassion and empathy. And the if someone needs to crack a window, just and not holding it so tightly and rigid, the rigidity around how it's supposed to be. And I think that we really want to carry and these practices through the totality. I have whole groups of people where you have a teenager in there or someone in their 20s and you have people in their 70s, and all of us trying to find the breath and trying to come back to our heart, try to ground in and find the stability amidst the craziness that's going on in the world. I mean, it's wild. And so how do we come together, and how do I create a space that holds the capacity for all of that? And I think that's really our own growth of, like you said, learning and understanding and starting to know what it's like out there. And I don't know what it's like to be 80, and I've been 25, but I don't know what it's like to be now a 25-year-old. It's a different experience.
Um, I have, like I said at the beginning, I've known you for many years, and I believe every yoga teacher has superpowers, super gifts that they bring that are not necessarily unique to only them, but that they possess that make them who they are. And I've always felt I was sharing this recently with somebody. I remember taking your class like 20 years ago and you saying, if you want to see the advanced students in the room, look around. They're all in child pose right now. And I remember that was such permission for me as a fellow yoga teacher, thinking like, oh, that's right. It is advanced to come to child and listen to your body. And you have this beautiful ability to hold that space for people, to meet them where they're at. Whereas I think a lot of yoga teachers have a like, this is a style I teach, and this is how you shall teach. There's a right and a wrong way. There's a You allow for curiosity and spaciousness in what you do, and I think it's why people are so drawn to you. So,
That's
including
a
during perimenopause.
that's a very profound compliment, and I take it. I just think that we get stuck in this performance, this idea, whether you're a yoga teacher, performing yoga teacherness, whether you're, a boss, a business person, a parent, we get lost in this performance layer. And yoga is really just this excavation of what's underneath that and what's underneath that. And
Yeah.
I hope to never lose that curiosity of what's it like to be in wrinkly skin, or what's it like to be in a body that I have to work harder to maintain muscle mass. What's it like to, where I'm kind of working all the time to stay upright as gravity has its time with me. What's it like to be in your 80s? It's amazing to remain curious, and
I
all the
hope to
people.
meet you there when we're both in our 80s.
Let's do it. I hope so too. I hope we have this conversation, but then instead of like thinking 25, 30 years is a long time, I'll just be like,
You remember back when we were in our 50s?
well, here's the thing too. Don't forget, here's the thing. Today is the youngest you and I will ever be.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah. Janet, I'm sure many people are listening to this and wanting to connect with you, to take your class either online at a retreat, do a training. I know you have video courses. You have so much content and opportunities to grow and learn. I'm wondering if you could say just a little bit about that. And I will, of course, put a link to your website where I'm sure people can find whatever they need. But any way you can invite people to experience your wisdom would be awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, janetstoneyoga.com, and that's pretty much shows all the things. I mean, I've been building an online platform it's been growing the last 15 years. I mean, I started making DVDs in 2006 or something,
DVDs.
2005, I don't know. And yeah, it's just, I was in the film industry before, so I really love capturing and being able to share these in all the spaces. Janet Stone Yoga on Instagram, and I'm on YouTube, and free practices, and I have an app, so it's just really, once we meet each other, you kind of can't miss me. You'll start tripping all over me. And I do have a perimenopause course, but I'm really not here to promote that. It's not live right now anyway. It'll come back around at some point, but I'm really here just to say, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about how yoga is truly a living practice. So not just when you come on the mat, it's not just for when you're young, it's for everybody, every time of life. There is a seed part of this practice that is available to each and every one of us. And that's why I'm here, Darren, just to have this moment with you to reconnect and to just remind each other of that.
Well, it has been so fun to reconnect, and I hope to do more of this. I'm going to tease that we've already talked about having you back on because you've got a book coming, but we'll save that for another podcast. Just something for people to get excited about. And yeah, I look forward at some point, now that the pandemic's behind us, and you know, uh, we need to hang out. We used to cross paths for tea on occasion, and we need to do that again.
Let's do it.
So janetstoneyoga.com is the website, and I will put links to all of that and resources in the show notes. If you have questions for either of us, you can drop them in the comments, or maybe you have your own experience with perimenopause that you would like to share. I'm sure, as Janet was saying, there's sort of this idea that you're not alone and just talking about it openly. So feel free to drop those in the comments, like, subscribe, and share. And we will see you in the next episode.